Thank you for being with us here this evening. The course title of this webinar is Your Transformational Journey. To start off with, I welcome you and acknowledge you for being the type of people who have an inquiring mind. In addition to that, you are the kind of people who know that there's more in life, even though your life is already working quite well. I also find that the people who do this kind of inquiry work are people who ultimately have compassion and empathy for not only themselves, but for other people. And so I welcome you and thank you for being with us tonight. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about the logistics of this course and also how to get the best use out of this course. First off, the course tonight will be going from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, give or take 5 minutes. That means this course will be an hour and 5 minutes or 55 minutes. We'll come back next week for the second half of this course, and we'll once again start at Saturday at 8 o'clock and go to 9, give or take 5 minutes. Also tonight, there have been requests from me to take an additional 15 minutes after this course to explain a little bit about my background and a little bit about the book that will be published this year called Wake Up the Brilliance Inside of You. That additional 15 minutes is completely optional. Now, also I recommend that you have a 3-ring binder or spiral notebook or some kind of computer device, tablet, iPad, laptop. You may find that as we go along that there may be certain notes that you want to make, that you may want to review during the week. And so those devices or paper will be quite useful. You also may find that during the course something didn't quite sit well with you. So you may want to write that down so that you can stay present with the course. Also, if you have any questions that you would like to ask, I'm going to give you my email address at this time, and you can text them to me. My email address is costales@costales.co. I did not say C-O-M. That is costales@costales.co, and that's COSTALES@COSTALES.co. Feel free to write any sort of comments or questions that you would like me to answer, and we'll do our best to get to them, or any comments you might have. Also, my phone number in the 562 area code is 691-7702. Now then, also you may find in the course that at times you'll have to grapple with something. Might appear to be a little bit confusing or difficult to get. That's probably a clear indication that you're learning something. So please allow yourself to sort of be a little bit perturbed or a little bit in mystery or a little bit confused or grappling. It's probably a great place to be. You may also find something very different, that the course isn't confusing at all and you're flowing through it and you're totally inspired. Either place is perfect. Let's see if there's anything else. I also recommend that you have, and it's not absolutely crucial, that you have a partner do this course with you. We call that the Mastermind Empowerment Partnership. It just simply means that during the week you can call somebody on the phone and say, you know, Mr. Costales said this, I didn't get it, he didn't speak really clear, it was confusing to me, or you know, I want to get some better insight. How did you answer that question? What were your thoughts about that? So it's very useful to have a partner or many partners that you can talk to about the work in this course called Your Transformational Journey. And I think that that is probably where we'll leave it at this business of the logistics of the course. Also, the course is not to be recorded or stored anywhere, part or in whole. This work is copyrighted, so if you have any kind of recording devices, please turn them off at this time. That all being said, let's begin the course, and I'm going to recommend that we start here with you writing down, who are you? And in a moment, I'm going to take out about 2 minutes where I'm silent and write down anything that comes up for you, so that you may not come up with anything. It might be a rather confusing question. I don't know who I am. Or you might have quite a bit to write down. But as we take this 2 minutes for you to reflect on who you are, just write down the first thing that comes to your mind. Don't worry after the 2 minutes if you come up with nothing. It's not a problem. Or if you've come up with 20 things. Or you felt like you needed a longer period of time. Most people never answer the question in their lifetime of who they are. So we're probably not going to get it accomplished within 2 minutes. Some people don't do it in 2 hours, 2 weeks, 2 years, 20 years, or ever. So just understand that we're beginning to scratch the surface of your thoughts about who you are. In this course, I will not be telling you who you are. As a matter of fact, I won't even be giving you any advice, nor do I have the truth for you. This course is not about religion, even though I respect that. It is not about some kind of philosophy or some kind of psychology, and it's not about me. This is the kind of course in which you discover for you what's true for you. Many times, as I spent some 8 years in the conceptual informational universities, you went in and you got and gathered certain concepts, certain ideas, and those ideas were sort of collected or gathered within you. This is not this kind of work we'll be doing. This isn't about me adding more to you so you have more concepts in your head. This is about you looking what's in you and getting that complete. And we'll discuss later on what that means about being complete. So this course will require you to examine within you and discover something. I'm asserting that within you there is a place that's extraordinary that may be covered up. You will find at the end of this course that knowing who you are according to how you speak it may be extremely, extremely important in your life. And it may give you an inspiration that was always there that got covered up. talking about the transformational journey, and I want to make a distinction between what I might call, and I'm going to be very careful of the jargon used in this webinar, but what I might call the finite doing journey. Now, what the world is that? You know, I just hate people who just talk jargon. What is this finite doing journey? Well, I'm going to explain it very clearly. And then I'm going to talk about a different kind of journey, which is called an infinite being journey. Now, my God, is he talking Greek? Is he going to speak to me? What is this business of a finite doing journey and an infinite being journey? Sounds like a bunch of jargon to me. Well, as we go along, you may find this to be quite practical, because we are intending for this course to come out of the sort of out there to something that you can actually use and is extremely, extremely practical. So I'm going to give you an example of each one of these, which will help you get these two different ways of maybe getting at who you are. So what is a finite doing journey? Give me an example. Let's get this cleared up. You know, this speaking is a little odd for me right at the moment. I've never heard anything about some finite doing journey. Well, let's begin to see, first off, break it down. What in the world is a journey? Well, a journey is oftentimes a pathway we're going down. There's a certain intention that we're going to do. And we're on this journey. We're on this pathway. We're going down a particular road that we want to go down. And so we're going on this journey. We oftentimes think of a journey as something where we're going to go to perhaps a certain state or a certain country. And there's a beginning and ending. And so then we'll describe this finite doing, D-O-I-N-G, journey, as opposed to a infinite being, B-E-I-N-G, journey. Doing and being are drastically different. So we're going to yank those two apart. So let's discuss this finite doing journey. So a journey is a pathway we're going to go down. And what is this finite stuff? Well, finite's just a fancy word for there's an ending point. There's a beginning and an ending. So that simply means is there's a time phase. We started here, and we completed there, and it's finite. It's limited, done. And we're doing something, and that usually means something physically we're doing. We're picking something up, we're walking, we're moving something. Something mechanical has occurred. We're going to call that the doing world. So let me give you an example of a journey that many of you take every morning. All right. You have an objective when you get up in the morning that you're going to go to work from 7 to 8 o'clock. And that's the journey. So we see there's a beginning and ending time, and therefore it's finite. It's limited. It's not going to 8:30, 9 o'clock, or on and on. It's simply going to happen every morning from 7 o'clock to 8, and that's the journey we're going on. There's a beginning and ending, therefore it is finite. Now, you then have the alarm clock that goes off at 7 o'clock in the morning, set to move your covers back. Well, you're doing something. You go over to the alarm, you turn it off, you're doing something. You walk around the bedroom, you've done some more. You open up the bathroom door, you're still doing something. You know, you get into the shower, you borrow soap, brush. You've been doing quite a bit. You get out, you put on your makeup, or you shave, you've combed your hair, you've blown dried your hair, many things. You've gone to the bathroom, and by this time, it's about 7:15, and you've already done 100 things. Walk out of the bathroom, down the hallway, into the kitchen, make some eggs, cook some eggs, some toast, a cup of coffee, maybe answer a text. This time, you've already done 150 things. You've actually physically, mechanically been doing things. You walk out the door, you lock the door, you feed the cat. You go out the gate, you shut the gate, you get to the car, you open the door. You adjust the seat, the radio. You've really done 200 things by this way, and it's only 7:30 in the morning. You've been doing, and doing some more. You get on the road, you've used your brake 50 times, you've accelerated 50 times, you used your blinker, you've stopped at red lights, and pretty soon you get to work at approximately 7:55. You turn off your engine, you then get your parking tickets, you shut the door, and it is 8 o'clock, and you have arrived, and your journey is over. You've done a massive amount of mechanical doing during that time. It had a beginning and an ending. And that is what we call, or what I'm going to call, what we do call a finite doing journey. There's a journey, it had a beginning and an end, and you physically, mechanically did all kinds of things. So that's a separate kind of journey. Now let's leave that journey way to the side and have a conversation about an entirely different kind of journey called an infinite being journey. Now what the world does that mean? I know when I first heard the word being some 40 years ago, I didn't like the word. I don't know what you're talking about, being. Well, this is a particular journey that doesn't have all this physicality. It's a way of thinking in your head. So it's drastically different than all this doing that we were talking about before. So being, that's a strange word. You know, we've been called human beings. Now, you may find this to be far more important than you may realize at this time, because an infinite being journey is fascinating and extraordinary. Again, we've used the word journey. What do we mean by journey? Well, it's a path we're going down. But this is a different path that we're going down. This is a path that goes on forever. Now, what are you talking about going on forever? Well, let's just say that it goes on for your entire lifetime. Let's say you're going to be here for 85 years, and perhaps beyond, depending upon your legacy. But we'll just say it's a long, long journey. It's a way of being over your lifetime. I still don't know what being is. You've used the word, but how am I being? What is that way of being that we're talking about? And so I'm going to give you an example. Now, being is a way of thinking. Being is a way of interpreting the world. When we talked about the first kind of journey, it had all kinds of physicality, and it's sort of more easier to get. But now this doesn't have the car, the toothbrush, the paste, and everything else. Now, this has something that has no physicality, and you're not necessarily doing. We're not used to thinking about being. We're too busy about doing, and doing some more, and doing. So when it comes to being, we sort of go south. It's like, oh my God, I don't know what being is. We'll get it terribly clear here. So it's a way of interpreting the world, or it's a way of viewing the world that sort of happens automatically. You know, you might find that you have several brothers and sisters, and you're all very different. That's because you're viewing and interpreting the world differently. Even though we came from the same family, we appear to be drastically different. That's because you took on a different conversation in your head that caused you to interpret the world and all the actions and the way you're thinking then were a correlate of your way of being. It's a way of thinking. We'll liken it to a pair of glasses that you put on. Perhaps you're nearsighted and you put the glasses on. Those glasses have you look in a particular way. It's kind of a filter that they look through. So we'll say being is a filter. Or perhaps you're farsighted, so you have to wear a different pair of glasses, and it gives you a different view. Or perhaps you're going to wear a pair of sunglasses, and there's rose-colored sunglasses, and some that are blue tint, and brown tint, strong tint, and so forth. So it's, in a sense, being is the way that you view the world. And we use the example of a pair of glasses to do that. Now, ultimately, it's coming from your head, so that we really don't see through our eyes. We see through what's occurring in our head that our eyes interpret. So let's just say a being is a pair of glasses that you look through that filters, that creates your reality. Some of us don't realize that the reality is created in our own head. It's not out there. And therefore, we've given a lot of our power away because we think the world is doing something to us. For the most part, it's the glasses that you're wearing that create your world. So we're talking about a way of being, or a way of thinking, or a way of interpreting, or the glasses you're wearing. And so this may give us a little bit more of an idea what this thing is called being. Sometimes very difficult to grapple with. When I heard the word, I hated it. I didn't like it. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what they were talking about. But it's something that runs our life, whether it's conscious or unconscious. So we better get very clear about this thing called being, because it will run our life, and it will determine the quality of our life. So it's far more important than we might think. Most of us are doing machines, and we really don't know how we're being. If you want to understand the quality of your life in the future, you better find out how you're being. And that means how you're interpreting the world, the beliefs you have in your head, the points of view, the way that you're thinking. And most of that's automatic with us. And this course is not about being automatic, but actually something that you've actually chosen consciously. Very, 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 very powerful. Not that I'm powerful or the course is powerful, you are. When you are at the level of choice of consciously choosing from your higher self, you better plan on an entirely different life. You will not be able to do that if you're a doing machine with a finite journey. It ain't going to happen. So we're talking about an infinite being journey, and we will get it clear. If it's not clear at the moment, please grapple with this. Please be confused with this. It's probably because you're learning. If this is difficult to get, there's no mystery for it because it is rather profound. So be with this sort of thing. Let yourself sort of wonder what we're talking about here. Now, we're talking about being. It's a way that you view the world through a pair of glasses. It's a filter you see the world through. You're probably not even aware of, or you may not even be aware of how you're filtering the world. That's fine. We're going to get to it here in this course called Your Transformational Journey. What the word, I don't even know what the word transformation means. Well, we'll get to that in this two-part series. We'll understand how you transform your life. Oftentimes a word, when I heard that word, I didn't like it either. Nobody explained it very clear to me. But right at the moment, we're not dealing with the word transformation. We're dealing with an infinite being journey. Now, we got an idea of what this journey is. Infinite means it's ongoing for an awful long time. So we could just simply we could say that an infinite being journey, we could use a different word. We could say it's a long time way of thinking, a pathway we're going down. I could say it that way, and that perhaps that's much more simple. But we're going to use just a few words, an infinite being journey. So I think we understand what infinite means, long, 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 long time. And we understand what a journey is. It's a road that we're looking down or we're going down. So I think we've got the infinite cleared up, and I think we've got the journey cleared up. Now this being still has us escaped. Well, we're saying it's a way of interpreting the world. And I'm going to give you an example because sometimes this example will be quite helpful. As I did in the first doing, I gave you an example. I'm going to give you another example so this gets a little clearer. And so this is a way of being. It's a way of interpreting. It's a way that a point of view that you're looking from. It's the pair of glasses that you're wearing. It's the filter you're looking from that oftentimes we don't even know that we have these filters on. Let me repeat this. We don't even know that we have these filters on. And I'm going to say it a third time. We don't even know we have these filters on. And if you don't know the filters you're looking from, you probably are not going to have much power over your future. I'm going to pause here for just a moment. If you don't know the filters that you're looking through, you probably don't have a power of designing your future. So therefore, the work we're doing here in this course can be outrageously powerful. The work is not powerful, but what you access may be extraordinary for you. Plan on having a little revolution in your side, one that you probably want to have. You may find in doing this course, you'll become extremely inspired. We'll see whether that happens with you. Only you will be able to answer that question. When I did this webinar, did it make any difference? Did I really got something that's extraordinary within me? We'll see whether that happens. So now let's discuss this being. So I'm going to give you a little story that happens to do on my very, very, very first day of school. And it will begin to show you how what I took on and interpreted the world, the way I was being, lasted for about 30 years. So I'll tell you this story, and then you can kind of take a look and see your own story. Perhaps you want to examine the story of what happened in your past that you might have been a way of being or a way of interpreting your thinking. So I lived way up in the hills in an avocado ranch. I had 2 older brothers and 2 older sisters. I had 28 aunts and uncles, and I never played with young kids my own age. My mother drove me to school in her new Cosmopolitan Lincoln and just dropped me off and said, "There's your school, go for it." So here I was dressed like Sunday school. I had a bow tie on, gold suspenders, corduroy pants, fancy shirt, collared shirt, and Oxford shoes. And I went there, and here this school was for kindergartners to 6th grade, and these kids were acting like Martians and nutheads. They were screaming and hollering, jumping up in the hallways. It was echoing. It was so loud, it was tragic. I didn't even know where my classroom was. Now, I wasn't particularly a crybaby, but this was very scary for me. And I never acted like this at my home because I came from a very, very strict home. And you would never act like this because you're going to get slapped up beside your face if you jumped up and did all this screaming and hollering like these kids were doing. And there were 200 or 300 of them. And it was very loud. And I was rather fearful. And all of a sudden, a bell went off over my ear like a siren, a school bell, and I backed up, and that was it. And I made some decisions or ways of being in those moments that stuck with me for many decades. Number 1, you people are bad. There's something wrong with you, and there's nothing wrong with me. So I immediately then took on a way of being, you're wrong, I'm right. That's one way of being. Second, I've got to control you so that I can survive. So then I took on a very authoritative way of being. Third, I'm very different with you, and I was certainly dressed different because nobody was dressed like I was. I'm very different from you, and I'm going to prove it for the rest of my life. And so that was my way of being. And it only takes a little kindergarten school kid to do that, to change your whole life. So what was that way of being? 1, I'm very different than you, and I'm going to prove it. 2, I've got to dominate and get power over you. 3, there's something wrong with you, and therefore I'm right and you're wrong. That's the way of being that I took on and took it on heavy. So you can see from that little 5-year-old boy how you can take on certain beliefs and interpretations, and it will run your life. And if it sits in the back of your head, you will be thinking out of that. And oh my God, if you think you can have a future out of that kind of thinking, good luck. It is extremely limited, and it is tunnel vision. So you then can see that I had a theme journey. And you saw when I got there at kindergarten. So then that went on and on and on and on, years and years and years down the road. That little finite doing journey only lasted for an hour. This one went on and on and on and on, and it was a way of being or a way of thinking. So let's go by review of our course here tonight. Number 1, we opened up the course at exactly 8 o'clock. I then acknowledged you for having an inquiring mind, having compassion and empathy, because that's just what people do when they do this work for other people. And I also acknowledged you for having a life that already worked and being willing to even be more extraordinary than you already are. That's where we started off. I then spoke a little bit about the course, about making notes, that we couldn't record the course, that it would be a good idea to have a mastermind partner, and then also let yourself be confused and grapple with this. You're probably learning, and for those of you that haven't been confused and rocking and rolling, either place is wonderful. I discussed that tonight would go from 8 to 9, or give or take 5 minutes, and then next week we would come back from 8 to 9 exactly on Saturday. I also mentioned to you that there will be an additional 15 minutes after tonight, because many people want to know about the author's background and also a little bit about this book that he has written. It will be published in 2016, Wake Up the Brilliance Inside of You. So, it is now 8:55. I really acknowledge you for being with us and with me tonight. If you see that next week you just can't wait to get there, or it's like, oh my God, you're stuck in the mud and you come dragging, please come back at 8 o'clock. Regardless of whether you're totally excited or not, be with it. I can assure you that you will get enormous value out of this particular webinar. So at this particular time, I am going to call this evening complete. I do thank you for being with us. I'm going to wait for 1 minute pause, and then I'm going to go into the author's background and discuss about the book, Wake Up the Brilliance Inside of You. Welcome back. Thank you for continuing to being with us tonight. In the next 15 minutes, give or take 5 minutes, I'm going to be discussing a little bit about myself, my background, because many people have asked and want to know about that. Then I'm going to discuss the book, basically go over the outline so you have a sense of what the book is about, called Wake Up the Brilliance Inside of You. My particular journey began at 8 years of age of a game that my father played with me in which we became extremely obsessed. We would go to a family gathering. We called the game the guessing game. And I would go to a family gathering with my father, and my father would look at one of my uncles, and he said, well, tell me about it. And I would look over at Uncle Bob, and I said, well, you know, he wears kind of a funny hat. And he smiles a lot, and I really like the things he makes with his hands. Oh, he says, is that right? Tell me some more about him. Well, I don't know if I know him. He's got a little bit short. Okay, well, what else do you know about him? Well, I don't know. He certainly drives a funny car. Oh, that's interesting. Tell me what else. And he kept asking me and asking me and asking me. We would go on and on and on. Then we'd leave there, and we'd go to the grocery store. And there was a cashier. He said, well, tell me about her. I said, well, she's really pretty. And she should be in Hollywood. And she, I don't know, could wear some pretty funny shoes. And I like her a lot. Oh, well, tell me about her. Well, I don't really know anything more about her. Well, I don't know, but she sure does have pretty skin. And he would just keep asking me and asking me. And then we would go to a Cub Scout meeting. And tell me about the den master. I said, well, he's kind of a little bit mean. And he sure is demanding. And I don't know, we could sure get in trouble. Well, tell me about him. Well, he knows a lot about, tying knots, and he knows a lot about, and just kept asking and asking and asking. Well, we did this every day, 365 days a year. When I was 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, I mean, it was massive. Well, about the time I got to high school, I was extremely advanced in looking at people. And I would go up to people in class, and I'd say, well, tell me about your problem. Literally would do this. And I know of nobody in my class of about 3,000 that did this. And, well, I had this acne problem. Well, eating bup, 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 bup. Well, my parents are divorced. Well, bup, 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 bup. Well, I don't have any money. Okay, we'd talk about, well, I don't know, I want to buy a car. And we would discuss these things, and I'd go up to the next person. Well, do you have any problems you want to talk about? And I went on and on. I tried to figure out all 3,000 kids in the school. So the time I got done with high school, nobody was doing what I was doing. And I mean, and people would ask me, what are you thinking about? I mean, every day, all the time, all the moment. So then I went to college, spent 4 years, got a Bachelor's of Arts degree in social science, took every psychological and social class, and then went and did an additional 1.5 years undergraduate work. One particular class I took called experimental psychology, I write about in my book. So now I had a rather formal education studying a lot of psychology and a lot of sociology. From there I went on to become 28, became very successful in the corporation that I started, and I had everything. The looks, the personality, I was straight A's in karate, and ballroom dancing. I did major workout. I had spent an additional 2 years getting in business, and then got a real estate broker's license, and now I'd spent about 8 years getting a conceptual education. I just had everything. And next door was a woman named Jody, who was about 30 years old, and she didn't have all the things that I had. Yet there was a power that she had that I just didn't understand. She had more energy than I had, and I had a lot of energy. She could express herself freely. My expression was more intellectual. She got joy for no reason at all. And it was just a power that she had. I certainly was no wimp, but she had a different kind of power. And so she invited me to do a training. I did that. It was a 4.5-day training, and it was very different than the 8 years that I'd spent studying concepts. This wasn't about me going to a history class or a math class to gather more concepts. This was about me looking within myself. Now, I'd never done that. I was too busy looking at other people. And so I began to look at all my interpretation, points of views, and all these things, all my feelings and everything else. Training was very difficult. I'd never done anything like that. And after I got out of the training, 3 days later, I went to lunch with a woman, and therein had this extraordinary experience. I had an authoritative number, and it quieted down. I had an aristocratic number, and it quieted down. I had a sensual number, and it quieted down. I had a positive thinking number, and it quieted down. And I had an intellectual number, and it quieted down. And that kind of flow, or that quality that Jody had, I could experience. And I went back to my office, and there I was with my brand new Thunderbird that I'd paid cash for, and my head was completely quiet. And I said, whatever this stuff is that they're talking about being and transformation, which I did not like those words, I'm doing every course in this country. So then I went on and did courses for 15 years, from Omega to Symington to Owens to LifeSpring to S to Summit to Vipassana. It went on, Carnegie, on and on and on. Spend major money looking within me, all of my beliefs, interpretations, and points of views, and all of my emotions. So then, after having done that, I then started a company called Contextual Actualization, when I started working with people for thousands of hours. In addition to that, I then got interested in hypnotherapy, so then went back to school again for another two years, became a master hypnotherapist. Then from there started a company called Vision to Reality and still worked thousands of hours with people. And over the last 4 years, I've written a book because I've been requested to write a book for many, many decades, and that is Wake Up the Brilliance Inside of You. And it's been about 30 hours a week for the last 4 years. And this is a textbook. It is a curriculum for transformational living, and it is about 700 pages long, and it is, to say it if I have to, it is a masterpiece, and it's profound because it gets to the masterpiece and the profoundness of you. So thank you so much for being with us and with me tonight. If this has been confusing, please let yourself be confused. If it's been difficult to grapple with, please let it be difficult to grapple with. This means you're learning. Don't worry about it. If you come back next week and it's like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can take another session of this, fine. But let yourself be there. Thank you for allowing me to tell you a little bit about myself and a little bit about the book. And I'm going to go through that at this time and give you an idea of the chapters in the book. And so chapter number 1 is entitled The Author's Transformational Journey, Transforming Your Life. Chapter number 2 is Discovering Who You Are, Gaining Freedom Within. Chapter number 3, The Blueprint to Access Your Human Intelligence, Pathways to Transforming Your Mind. Chapter number 4, Create and Live Your Life Purpose, a Purpose-Driven Life. Chapter number 5, The Blueprint to Empowering Your Life, Reducing the Reactive Charge of Your Past-Based Reactive Issues. From there, we go to chapter number 6, Mind Mapping, Vision Boards, and the Law of Attraction and the Law of Repulsion, Structures for Fulfilling Your Intentions. The Power of Living a Balanced Life, Part 2, Body, Relationship, Spirit, Money, and Education. Chapter 6, Living a Balanced Life, Being Whole and Complete Within. Chapter 7, Create and Live Your Body Purpose, a Balanced, Purpose-Driven Life. Chapter 8, Create and Live Your Relationship Purpose, a Balanced, Purpose-Driven Life. Chapter 9, Create and Live Your Spirit Purpose, a Balanced, Purpose-Driven Life, the Space of Infinite Energy. Chapter 10, Create and Live Your Money Purpose, a Balanced, Purpose-Driven Life. Chapter 11, Create and Live Your Education Purpose, a Balanced, Purpose-Driven Life, a Conceptual and Contextual Education. Part 3, The Benefits of Transforming Your Life, Authentic Self-Expression, Power, Emotional Intelligence, Happiness, and Peace of Mind. Chapter 12, Authentic Self-Expression, Communication that Makes a Difference. Chapter 13, Power versus Control, 2 different types of leadership characteristics. Chapter 15, Happiness and Peace of Mind, Accessing the Well-Being Within You. Part 4, Structures for Fulfillment and Empowerment. Meditation, hypnosis, mastermind empowerment groups and partnerships, life coaches, and a life transformation consultant, accessing who you are in the present and the future, transformational reshuffling, the game of life, neuroscience and quantum physics, chapter 16, meditation, having a quiet mind. Chapter 17, hypnosis, a hoax or a natural state of awareness. Chapter 18, the Mastermind Empowerment Group of Partnership, Actualizing Your Intentions. Chapter 19, Life Coaching and the Life Transformational Consultant Practice, Empowering Your Higher Self. Chapter 20, Access Who You Are in the Present and in the Future, Living Your Life Consistent with Your Higher Intentions. Chapter 21, Transforming, Reshuffling the Game of Life, Making Choices Consistent with Your Higher Self. Chapter 22, The Power of Neuroscience and Quantum Physics, How does Science Play an Important Role in Determining Your Behavior. Part 4, Where do we go from here to design and manifest your compelling future? Chapter 23, honoring source, mentors, and influential people, people who have empowered us to access and be our higher self. And then we go from there to chapter 24, making a difference. What mark are you intending to make in the world? And then to chapter 25, it's all made up. Invent yourself, your life newly. And then we come to the final chapter, chapter 26. Where do we go from here? Inventing your future, a whole new life awaits you. So that'll give you a little idea of the outline of the book. And it will be out in 2016. Of course, it's called Wake Up the Brilliance Inside of You.
That is where we step into our 100 billion neural pathways. That's where we're seeing constant vibrational frequencies. Energy is so powerful, it's everywhere. I'm going to suggest to you that this is a secret life to get right over here.
Thank you so much for being with me and us tonight in this optional extra 15 minutes to discuss a little bit about my background and discuss about the book. If you have any questions, as we said before, I've given you the email address and my phone number. I look so much forward to being with you at 8 o'clock coming up this Saturday. And thank you so much for being with us and being with me. Good night, and bye for now.
That's it.